And welcome back to Straight Talk Africa. I'm Esther Githui-Ewart, sitting in for Shaka Sali, coming to you live from Washington. And Mariama Diallo is off today, but we have some tremendous feedback in our STA inbox to this week's question, which asks, Yoweri Museveni was declared the winner in last week's Ugandan presidential election, but opposition candidate Dr. Kizza Besigye quickly rejected the announcement, and tensions continue in the country. And this leads us to our question of the week, which asks, what do you think about Uganda's election results? And so that is one of the questions there, and we have a lot of feedback here. And we thank you all for using our social media platforms to communicate to us. Milton, you had something to say before we go to some of these tweets. Go ahead.
Yes, I think some of the issues we're discussing had been slightly mischaracterized in terms of General Museveni's interventionist policy. First of all, I think when the United States is looking at its relations with Uganda, however favorable it is to have Ugandan troops stationed in Somalia, the U.S. should remember that those are not Mr. Museveni's private army. It belongs to the people of Uganda, the citizens of Uganda. So that should not be the only condition by which we base relations with Uganda, because that same policy could continue under a different administration that does not happen to be under General Museveni. And then very briefly, but critically, in terms of the impact of his interventionist policy, let's not forget that it's because of the multiple invasions of the Democratic Republic of the Congo that an estimated 6 to 7 million Congolese have died. And in fact, in 2005, the International Court of Justice ruled against Uganda and ordered Uganda to pay reparations of $10 billion. Not a dime has been paid. But even much more important, and this one is not ever covered, but I think it's critical. The Wall Street Journal reported on June 8, 2006, that the International Criminal Court started a criminal investigation into the alleged crimes by Uganda in the Congo, which means potentially General Museveni could be indicted, just like Omar Bashir in the Sudan. And I think, and anybody can go and look at that story, they can research it. I think General Museveni is concerned, and I think that's one of the reasons why he continues clinging on to power. He thinks by being president, that's the only way he can guarantee his own protection against prosecution.
All right, Milton, I'll get back to you shortly and to our guests here in the studio. But thank you for using our social media platforms to communicate with us. And another reminder that we're tweeting live today. Use the hashtag VOA Uganda Elections. And if you haven't yet, please follow us at VOA Shaka. Let's go to a tweet from Habatin Kula, who tweets, I believe something stolen isn't worth it to celebrate compared to a genuine win. The Electoral Commission decided this was not a decision of the Ugandans. Also, we have another tweet from Abele Libariki, who writes, Museveni rigging during the election was not enough. Please stop humiliating your citizens. And our last tweet is from Cedrisa, who tweets, instead of civilians on the streets, now it's the police. And so, well, you can see what they're saying. And let's go to our Facebook as well. And we have a couple of email comments here. We begin with Fan Kajubi from Kampala, Uganda, who writes, this is the gravest miscarriage of democracy that Africa has seen. Come on, we have seen sham elections in Congo and a circus in Zimbabwe, but never a criminal hijack of the people's will such as has been done in Uganda in 2016. This will forever be an example of how arrogance, paranoia, and dementia can mix to deny a leader common sense. Wow, those are very tough words there, Rushdie, from Kajubi there in Uganda. What do you make about of all these, you know, the tweets and the Facebook comments? I haven't seen one that is really praising anything.
No, and I think this is a growing level of discontent across the African continent, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, where people are no longer just happy with going through the motions of an election. They want elections to be credible. They realize that elections represent a key opportunity to engage and to hold politicians to account. And so even in countries like Nigeria in last year, where you saw the scourge of Boko Haram and the threat of it, people came out in droves to cast their votes, and every vote that was cast, there was a vote against the terror that was brought on by groups like Boko Haram. I mean, in Uganda today, despite the fact that we have a lot of criticism as to what has happened, you saw in the election, I mean, a 63% voter turnout. That was last seen in 2006. Today on the elections, people are saying low voter turnout. The ability to actually take to social media nowadays is a prerogative of ordinary citizens, where they can hold people through account through public commentary. I mean, it is power in your hand nowadays. And whereas previously it was only through the ballot, people are expressing their levels of frustration with organized politics across the entire subcontinent.
You know, Milton, Elizabeth did raise a very good point, and I know you may disagree with this, but what we saw in Uganda years ago, the days of Idi Amin Dada and others, was really chaotic. A lot of people dying, bodies in even freezers and all that. Surely there must have been a number of people, and quite a number of people, who supported President Yoweri Museveni on this election.
Absolutely.
And who credit him with the stability that we see in Uganda and even in the region of East Africa. And she clearly pointed that out. Remember also, you know, that Uganda has contributed quite some troops within the
Esther.
AU. Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to tell you,
I did not disagree with all of it. I did not disagree with all of it. I said I disagree with some of it. I think that credit that he was deserving of, I think eventually it started to dissipate when he started to show another part of his character. Look, Amama Mbabazi, his former prime minister, now refers to him as a dictator. And Amama Mbabazi said he actually became dictatorial a long time ago, but in the interest of stability, he didn't want to rock the boat and make things any worse. He said that's why he stayed longer. But look, we can't discount the deaths attributed to the Ugandan intervention in the Congo. We can't discount the deaths attributed to the Ugandan intervention in South Sudan. In fact, Human Rights Watch reported that Uganda used banned cluster bombs in South Sudan. If the United States did not have a special relationship with Uganda, there's no way would an army be allowed to use cluster bombs and not take the matter to the Security Council. So all I'm saying is that the special relationship with Museveni has been too costly, not only for Uganda, but for the region. People in South Sudan would agree with this. People in the Democratic Republic of Congo would agree with this. And even in the Central African Republic, there was an article in last year's in the Wall Street Journal, and people can look this up as well, saying Ugandan troops were looting diamonds and raping civilians in the in the Central African Republic. But these are stories that people don't dwell on. People don't give it enough attention that it deserves. Yeah. Otherwise, if they knew the true nature of General Museveni, they would not be surprised by his conduct today.
You know, Milton and Elizabeth, I'll give you another chance. But again, you know, we have to have some credible report here. People can write stuff, and people do fell out as friends. Like you say, Amama Mbabazi and Museveni are no longer in good terms. Dr. Kizza Besigye was his personal physician. You know the history lately. But let me go to one more comment from a Straight Talk Africa Facebook fan, Chris Mugume from Kampala, Uganda. He writes, I think we should stop presidential elections since a lot of taxpayers' money is wasted. Museveni, Kigundu, Electoral Commission can't organize free and fair elections, and I call upon Parliament to revise our constitution to reduce the powers of dictator Museveni. Wow, this is another harsh one. And our last Facebook comment comes from Nasa Kirunda Menya in Kampala, Uganda, who writes, I am greatly disappointed in the way Mr. Museveni has imposed himself on us after rigging his way to rule us for another 5 years. Dr. Besigye is the president-elect and is my leader. Mr. Museveni is my ruler.